Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to Thinking Out Loud Live. My name is Ricardo Zilueta and I'm your host. This show was made possible by Start Day One, which is a nonprofit foundation for mental health and suicide prevention. We just have a different approach in the way we help people, where most organizations and other people are more concerned about a reactive approach, basically waiting for suicidal tendencies and mental health issues. We have a more proactive approach. Any kind of prevention requires a more proactive approach. So we're doing this show so that we can actually reach out to people and hopefully change their perspectives, because our mission is to help people change their perspective from basically dreaming of one day to starting day one. Day one means there's a day two, day three, day four. Most people are very overwhelmed with how much they need to change, but really they just don't know where to start. And that's the reason we're doing the show, so that hopefully people that are suffering or experiencing some negative thoughts or whatever, we can kind of help change their perspective. One of the ways we do that is inviting all the different guests on the platform. And so our guest for today is Kane Patterson. He's going to discuss how he kind of changed his life from almost dying in the streets as a drug addict and to a motivational fitness trainer and helping other people with nutrition and all that stuff. He was born in a family that was like broken, torn apart by drugs and crime. His mom was a heroin addict, and he was put in a system like plenty of times. And when he was a teenager, he actually developed his own drug habit himself, and actually took like 10 years of his life. And then it just took that one time, that commitment to changing his life, instead of being alone in the streets. And now he is helping other people. So I really just want to introduce you guys to Kane Patterson. Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. You?
Good. Not too bad. Not too bad. So I gave everyone a quick introduction of you, but I like when people hear direct from you. I just want you to kind of tell them a little bit of your story, where you're coming from, what happened to you, and then basically where you're at now and what you're doing.
Okay. So, I guess my journey kind of started when I was born. Me and my brother as well were born heroin babies, so we pretty much went through withdrawals when we were born because our mum was using substances when she was pregnant with us. From there, I think the first time I got put into foster care was around the age of 1.5. And then pretty much from there throughout my whole life, it was I'd go into foster care. Mum would prove that she could be a normal functioning member of society, quotation marks. Um, and then she would fuck up or something and get like, overdose somewhere or commit a
Wow.
crime or something like that, and we would get taken off her again. And this happened too many times to count through my childhood, right up until I think I was about 14 the last time I moved back in with her. Worst decision of my life.
Wow.
And then soon after moving back in with her, I developed my own drug habit. Uh, Quickly took a hold of me, consumed me, and pretty much for the next 10 years of my life, I was either really, really bad and living on the streets, or, trying to clean myself up and get off it, and then stuffing up and going back in the hole even further. Very, very, very dark times, man.
Yeah.
I laugh awkwardly about it now. It's a very awkward laugh. But then pretty much one sort of moment in my life was a turning point that sort of it started the ball rolling of me committing to myself and changing my life and working on myself. One of the hardest things I've ever done, looking at myself and sort of saying, you're the problem, not everything around you or the people around you. And then, I became a personal trainer, fitness instructor, metabolic nutritionist, online coach, and now I help as many people as I can. I try and help people by sharing my story. Hopefully people can get inspiration from it. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, thanks a lot, man. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So I love having you as a guest right now because you're just that true person, that real person. And I've been talking a lot about my different philosophies with different professionals and other people. And a lot of them still fall in that realm of like we've talked about this before, when you're in a bad place, you tend to hate accountability and love excuses,
Oh
right?
yeah.
I love that you said, that you started realizing it's not that it was the problem. It wasn't the problems around you, that you had to take care of yourself. And what's funny is when I talk to professionals about that, it's almost like they don't want to agree with it. And the thing is, you don't understand is you're providing your clients, I guess, this nocebo effect that they have zero fucking control of their situation. That the only way to control it is by using this magic pill. Here you go. And that doesn't fit. Did you ever go through a time where you went through medication and stuff at all?
I don't think medication would have worked on me back then because of how much drugs I was taking,
Yeah.
man.
But you never went into that, like where you were getting medicated or anything like that?
No, I never went to any rehab joints or anything like that. I never got medication for depression or anything like that because it's only been in the last like 5 years that I've actually noticed my depression and worked out what it was and then started
Yeah.
working on that.
Yeah.
Beforehand, I thought, I don't know whether I was depressed back then
Yeah.
or whether it was just the situation that I was in was sort of getting me down.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's freaking great because whenever, every time I talk to people and even professionals and I discuss depression and anxiety, they always go and assume that everyone is the same, that they have to rely on medicine, and that like basically that the chemical imbalance is to blame. So I'm like what I'm hearing about you, because people that are in depression didn't even go as hard as you did, right? Like you
Yeah.
you went pretty all balls out,
All
and
or nothing.
yeah. And the thing is, so this is what I tell people. It starts off with a bad perspective, right? And then that is what evolves to becoming suicidal tendencies. That's at the very end if you succeed. Everything in between is, I hate Mondays. Man, my work sucks. Man, my girlfriend's so this and that. And all of a sudden, alcoholism, drug abuse, suicidal tendencies. And to me, it's all one line. It just depends where you at in this line. And you kind of went slowly. You didn't have a drug habit yet until later, right? It didn't happen or anything. And what did you see now, like looking back? Like, when did the because to me, I always tell people it's the perspective. When do you think your perspective, or what was your perspective? Actually, let's talk about that. What was your perspective when you were in a bad place? Like, what were you
Well,
thinking?
it started off as partying and having fun,
Yeah.
but it quickly turned into something that I would tell people, as any teenager would in that situation. I was in control. I knew what I was doing and everything like that. I fucking wasn't. It took a
Right.
hold of me very quickly.
Yeah.
It got out of control. It got to a point where it became more than something that I was just having socially. It was something that I sort of needed and I craved and I thought about a lot.
Yeah.
But I guess I still blamed everyone around me. Like I
Yeah.
blamed my mother a lot for for the shitty childhood, the situation
Yeah.
she was in, for once again tricking me and having me move back with her, and then finding out she's just exactly the same.
Wow.
I blamed later, sort of into my addiction, for getting really bad. I blamed the passing of my grandfather, which hit me pretty hard.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that I didn't take ownership for.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, like, when we talk about drug addiction, all that stuff, and I think I mentioned this to you when we were talking, that I think, I mean, at least I'm getting your actual perspective because you were there, right? I always tell people like, dude, it's not the drugs, man. Like it's not the alcohol. Because if that's the case, then fuck, there's a lot of people in trouble if that's what addiction is. But there's also gambling addiction, sex addiction. What are you putting in your body that gets you addicted to that then? And I saw this study that addiction is not, it's not a chemical thing or a physical thing. It's something in your head, right? That gets you. It's really the bonding. So there was this one, I'll just do a quick thing here. There was this one research where this doctor, right, were testing these mice, and there's water, and then there was this I think it was heroin, some kind of drug.
Cocaine.
It might have been cocaine.
Yeah, I think I've read this.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the rat or mice was, obviously they went to water, went to the drug, and then boom, got drug addicted until it died. Done.
Mm-hmm.
And then some doctor said, like, yeah, but kind of this mouse is really just kind of there by itself. What if we change the environment?
Mm-hmm.
So they made this rat park or something, and where they had other mice in there. They had like these things that you can run around, water, plenty of food, all that stuff. So what they saw was they went water, drug, water, drug, water, 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 water. They didn't even touch the drug. Like they didn't even need it. They didn't even need it. And so what he realized was addiction is really a bonding problem. When you don't feel like you can bond with anyone in the world, no one, you can't relate, you just can't bond. There's a difference between having friends and bonding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it makes you kind of bond to other things.
Yeah.
And I don't like, just like everything else, the cause is never a noun. It's always a verb. You can't say beer is the problem. That ain't it. Something is happening. I don't know what it is, but it's not beer. You can't say the drug is the problem. It's heroin is the problem. Like, I'm pretty sure you could put heroin in front of me. I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not going to do it. So that's not the problem, So, like, what actually finally changed in your perspective that kind of made you say, because that's what changes. Like, what was the turning point for you?
So there was a lot of things that sort of led up to my snap point, I call it. Obviously working with people that want to change their body, I call it a snap point when they're ready to change. So, but there was one moment where I was out with a couple of friends. I'd been up for a couple of days partying, very drunk on pretty much anything I could get my hands on. And I ran into a very good friend of mine that I hadn't seen for a couple of weeks or months. I can't remember how long it had been since we hadn't touched base. And I went up to him and I said, hi. And he just goes, I don't want to hang around you anymore.
Wow.
You're getting too bad and you're scaring me. And
wow.
Like at the time, I was just like, yeah, whatever, man. Fuck off. Like, see you later. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
But when I came to and I woke up whenever I got up from partying. I couldn't remember anything from that whole time except for that one moment with him. And like it was in a club, there was music going, but I could remember it as clear as day. And being someone who grew up in foster care, I never really had family around. I never really had that solid foundation there.
Yeah.
And good friends became like my family.
Yeah.
And for one of them to turn around and say, I don't want to hang around you anymore.
Yeah.
It sort of, it hit home for me. And once I was able to comprehend what had sort of happened, that started the process, or a 3.5 year journey of trying to get clean.
Wow. So, and that's great because that's what really made you kind of start thinking about yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with accountability. It's to stop blaming this, blaming that. I just want to go back to your mom. One of the things I tell people, it sucks having that experience, but the way I kind of help people. So I hope, and if anyone's going through this, and it could be so small, it could be big, but parents have such a huge effect on any kid, right? most of the issues we have today are issues because of your childhood, not just yesterday. Not like they even say people with PTSD. How come not everyone in the army or whatever that goes through war or whatever gets PTSD? Why is that? Well, it was how they grew up, what their perspectives are on life and this, so it really damages. But one of the things I tell people, I call it my puppy theory. Yeah, I was talking to my wife about how kids are getting medicated with ADHD all the time. And so she was like, "Oh my God!" Like they're, my wife's like, "They're doing the wrong things." And it's like, imagine Blizzy, which is our husky, um, being given medication just because she's hyper. Because huskies are hyper, right?
Yep.
So people always say nature versus nurture, and I'd say it's how do you nurture nature? Because we're all composed of different elements and all that stuff. I get it. There's like a husky acts that way, a lab acts this way genetically. Get it. I get it. So there's things we can't do. The thing is, you have to learn how to nurture that, right? Because people say pit bulls are bad. Like, yeah, it depends on the owners, man. Right?
Yeah,
Right? Automatically, you're already like, nah.
100%, man.
Like they don't grow up bad.
We owned a bull terrier cross dingo when we were younger, when I was living with my mum, and everyone was like, "Geez, that dog's going to be a terror," and it was the most placid thing ever.
Yeah. You see baby pictures with them and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so when I get people to understand this, it's like, dude, you have to understand that we're just puppies. We're the result of parental guidance and our experiences, right? So even worse for you, it's kind of like when I had my brother's puppy and stuff like that. Kind of like it's basically a foster care kind of move, right? The puppy doesn't know how to get along with my dogs because there's just got here, so it wasn't really sure. So I really see people like that, right? And not only that, like the more you have an understanding of how you grew up, right, and how it can affect you, then the more understanding you have. And then on top of that, once they understand that, I tell them like, well, you got to remember your parents were puppies too.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one grows up going, I can't wait to be a drug addict.
No. Fuck no.
It's never planned. And so I feel bad when people say like, oh, fucking drug addict, this, that. But it's like, dude, it's like the dude didn't get a lot of hugs, man. Like, you know what I mean? So
I think it goes like no one takes their first drug going, oh, I'm going to be a drug addict. Yes. Awesome. No. They take it and they're like, oh, everyone else is doing it.
Right.
Let's do it. Let's have some fun. Let's see what it's like. And then
exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing I tell people. It's like, when they hate their parents so much and, the blame that you get, it's like, if you can understand where they're coming from, because your mom didn't do that on purpose either.
Mm.
She ended up there, but why? Maybe try to figure out or try to understand where she might have gone, where she's coming from. How did she grow up? Because no one plans on being that way.
Yeah.
Right. So now you go, shit, like, oh man.
I actually had to do a lot of that. And a lot of my self-growth, I guess you could call it, came from addressing the issues that I have with her and not forgetting what's happened, but forgiving and understanding why she did what she did.
Yeah.
And obviously going through my own drug addiction and stuff and that journey has helped me sort of understand what she was going through.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that. Because one of the things that I learned also, one of the biggest ones that really hurt people, man, is the forgiveness part. Either forgiving someone else, but the harder one is forgiving yourself for all the bullshit you did. That's the harder one. But both is very, very difficult. And I've seen how much damage that can really, really do. Like, did you have to do anything like that, like forgiving yourself?
I think forgiving myself came later, but looking at myself and realizing that I was the majority of the problem instead of like, obviously there was influences around me, there were temptations, there were opportunities,
Yeah.
but in the end, I was the one that made the decision. Like I was 15 going on 16 when I started taking drugs. I was a fucking adult. Like I knew
Yeah.
what I was doing. Like it
Yeah.
was my
Yeah.
decision. Even though my mum put it in front of me and literally said, "Here, have this." Like
Wow.
it still
Wow.
was my decision. Like
Yeah. Yeah. You're totally right. And it's funny because you could have used that and said that was her fault, that she put that in front of me and this.
I
And
did for years, man.
yeah, yeah. And that's
For
what we end up
years.
doing when we're in a bad place all the time. It's never your fault. It is never your fault when you're in a bad place. And it's funny, only when you're in a good place do people say, like, well, I guess everything happens for a reason, Kane. Like, you only say that when I'm in a good place.
Yeah.
No one ever says it like you're a drug addict. Well, everything happens for a reason, Kane.
Yeah. When I was eating out of garbage bins, that didn't happen for a fucking reason.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
there doesn't have to be a reason, first of all. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I see, because I know you said when you were talking to your friend, it's struck a chord in you. And what did you call it again?
A snap point.
Your snap point. Okay.
Mhm.
And a lot of people refer to that as like, oh, it's when I've had enough. And then I have to correct people. I'm just like, enough is a decision. It's not an amount. Like it was enough 5 years ago. You know? It was enough 7 years ago, 10 years ago. It was enough. You just finally decided today. That's the only difference, was the decision. And we talked about my apparel and stuff like that, right? It was all about the decision. So for people that don't know this, what we're trying to tell people is that nothing basically changes unless you make a decision. And fuck it is a phrase. It's actually pronounced fuck it, but it persuades people to say fuck it more without being offensive about it. Because the only time we actually say that phrase is only until after we've already made a decision. You never back out, because the reason it came out is you finally confirming to yourself that you're going to follow through and commit to the decision you just made. You never back out. No one plays poker and says, fuck it, I'm all in, and then back out. No one tries to jump out of a, sky jump, on a parachute and say, fuck it, and not jump. It's something you say and then you commit,
Once you've jumped, there's no turning back. Once you've jumped, there's no turning back.
That's it. It requires, and what's funny is studies show it is so much easier to commit 100% than it is 98%, 99%. What that does, it really fucks you up because you still think you have an option. So people that want to quit drugs, they don't fully commit. It's like, maybe just, maybe this, or maybe it's this. So you start making up excuses and stuff until you commit, and it really takes that. And one of the things that help to prevent that is this future of when you have a vision of a future version of yourself. If you don't have that, you're in fucking trouble, because people don't get depressed because of what happened in the past. Like, look at you now, right? Has nothing to do with your past, has nothing to do with what you saw in the past. It's what you couldn't see in your future. And that can still happen today. The pandemic could have really turned you, except you kind of kept your perspective. Like, all right.
It got me for a bit, man. The pandemic got me down for a bit.
Yeah. Well, did you see when that person talked to your friend, did you kind of just see like, fuck, I don't want my future to be like that? Is that what you saw? Did you see a different version? What?
It was a couple of days later when I straightened up. And when I think when you said about making a decision,
yeah,
I think it had got to a point in my life, like, as you said, like 8 years ago, it was enough. But I think the pain and the hurt had got to a point where I was ready to make that decision and to wholeheartedly make that decision and go all in.
Yeah.
And then, like, looking forward into the future, I definitely didn't see myself as a personal trainer.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be a normal person,
Yeah.
that at that stage had a job, done everything like a normal person, a normal functioning member of society, pretty much.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be somebody that people look down on, somebody that, you know, would go out on the weekends and then pretty much all next week would be either trying to find somewhere to live or trying to find food, or,
Yeah.
I didn't want to be in pain, pretty much.
Yeah. And and right, coming from your experience, that requires a decision. Like
Mhm.
it, so what I've seen, so this is what I've been teaching people from all the things that I've learned. The process to having this happiness, right, is you have to have a sense of purpose. Without a sense of purpose, that's like your compass. It's your why you keep going. The cool thing about purpose no one really knows about is that it doesn't give a fuck about pleasure or pain. Your purpose is the same whether you're going through pain or pleasure. Um, if your purpose is to help other people, right? Well, that requires freaking going through the pains of having your own business, right? But that's the only way I'm going to help other people. How else am I going to help other people if I'm not sustainable and stuff like that? But that's pain. You could have said like, oh, I don't want to freaking have the stress of a business. Like, I'll just work for someone else and do whatever. So it's not in line with your purpose. So your perspective really needs to be the next step. So without purpose, your perspective, you won't know what's in line. So to me, once you have a purpose, your perspective, you have to look, it's either going to benefit your purpose or it's going to be a threat to your purpose, right? If you're here to help people and then you go, yeah, but I don't really have the time, is that a threat or a benefit to your purpose, right? So then you go, well, what if I stop playing video games maybe a little bit less, you cut the video games.
Not gonna happen, man.
But little things like that, right? When you change your perspective, because all your decisions follow your perspective. You're never going to make a decision based on a completely different perspective. You just don't do it. You never do it. So unless I shift your perspective, and that's what inspiration does. What inspiration does, it actually shifts your perspective. The motivation, that comes later. That is so later. If I tried to motivate you, Kane, before you made that decision, like, yo, man, fucking stop that shit, and then you would have been like, please.
I probably would have took drugs in front of you and just been like, yeah,
Exactly.
whatever, man.
Exactly. And that's a mistake people do. They try to motivate way too early. You have to shift the perspective first. And that person kind of helped indirectly by saying like, yeah, I'm kind of scared to be around you now, man. And so you're like, whoa, I thought I was just having a good time. I'm an awesome person. I'm great to be with. All of a sudden your perspective just went boom. Like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm not a good person. Like, why wouldn't you? You're my friend, man. Like, so that's a big shift. It's almost like a positive trauma to you, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I've never looked at it that way, but yeah.
Because trauma, I'm reading this book, and what they say is like when you hit trauma, makes your mind fixated. And people that are like healthy and really going, they have a more love. They have more like a dynamic way of mind. They're flexible because people think personality is like fixed. I'm an introvert. Well, yeah, keep saying that. Yeah, you're right. I'm an extrovert. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be a drug addict. Yeah, like all of it is true. Like if you keep telling yourself that, and that's what I don't like. Like, how did you come up with that? Because I know you were telling me earlier. Yeah, my perspective was, my mom was a heroin addict, and I thought I was gonna be one too. Like, what made you even think that anyway?
I guess it was just the environment that I was in, and the cycle that I was going through, being in foster care, then out of foster care, in foster care, out of foster care, and always going back with my mum and just seeing her do it, then, seeing people around her, friends, family coming around, uncles, that were just people that were staying with us pretty
Yeah.
much.
Right. Right.
And yeah, it just got to the point. I was like, well, maybe this is normal, you know.
Right. Right. That's true.
So it just sort of, when it was put in front of me by her, it wasn't the situation and the influence and everything that was around it was leaning more towards me having it, but
Yeah.
it was still my decision to take it.
Yeah. So
And
glad you.
then it was my decision to let it get as bad as it got.
Right. Right. I love that you keep saying the decision, because it's really truly is one of the most powerful things, because nothing would have changed without that. Like it's even finding your purpose is actually intentional. It requires a decision too. So people don't realize it's like we're all just a product of our decisions, not our environment. Right? You're in a fucked up environment. Then how the hell did you end up? And there's people that were rich that are more depressed than you today. Right? So how is that possible? Right? It's all about perspective. And that's why I always go back to that. I just want to point out that, Brandy says, love what you guys are doing. I'm loving this message as well. Congrats, Kane, on your sobriety. So that's cool. So what we're doing now, this is why we do this, is we're hoping your story changes somebody's perspective.
I just got the chat up, then I realized I didn't have it up. Sorry.
Oh, gotcha. All good. Yeah, so hopefully people will kind of comment more on there. I like when people actually send their comments and stuff. So I'm actually going to put this up to get them to do that a little bit more. Yeah, so, when people can't see like a future version of themselves, it's difficult, man, because that future version. So this is what I told my wife, right? Because like years ago, I said, that theory, quantum theory, where everything that can happen supposedly does happen. So there's like a homeless version of me. There's a drug addict version of me. And then there's a freaking, super successful version of me also. And what I told her, I'm like, well, why not this one? Why is this one not the one that's going to make it? Right. So I'm like, what the hell did that guy do? Or what would he have done to get there? And so I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to do what I think he did,
Yeah.
So that's what I end up doing. And that's kind of like now I'm reading this book, and it all made sense that unless you have a future version of yourself, it is so hard. All your actions today should follow that. That's why I try to be very consistent. I don't like things that kind of harms people. Like, for example, live every day like it's your last. Well, guess what? Kane was doing that. You know what I mean? You killed it at the freaking live your day every day game, right? But was that healthy? You know what I mean? So I don't like saying that anymore. Live every day like it's your last, because you're doing it wrong. What the hell are you doing in front of me at this local club? You should be using your credit card down in freaking Tahiti or something. Like, what are you doing here if it's your last day? But what happens if you keep doing it that way?
Yeah.
It's going to suck.
I sort of had a different way of doing things. I didn't really see a future self of me until so my sort of driving force to keep me on the straight and narrow, keep me on track, was I didn't want to turn out like my mum. So I was actually running from something, if you want to call it that. I was being pushed away from that because I didn't want to grow up, potentially have kids that hate me, that don't want to be around me, that want nothing to do with me. And it wasn't until I sort of got to a stage through my PT career, and I think it was about 5 years into that career, where that worry and that hurt and that pain from potentially ending up like her wasn't enough to keep me going anymore, to keep me working on my goals and to keep me on track. So that's when I had to go, okay, what do I want to be? Like, where do I want to be? I now need to chase something instead of you know?
I love it. Exactly. So first is more a general sense of who you want. You didn't pick specifically who you're becoming, but you were just knowing like, I don't want to, I definitely don't want my future to be this though.
Mm-hmm.
So you saw a completely different, you just didn't have a good picture of it, but you at least knew, you made the decision, it's not going to be this one.
I had a very strong reason why I didn't want didn't want it to be like that, man. Yeah.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah.
But it's very, I mean, what you went through is so tough because you're going against the grain in every way, from the way you grew up, what you experienced. I mean, that takes a lot of real, I mean, what I like that I always hear you say, man, is that you're always holding yourself accountable. And you always say like, oh, then I made the decision to do this. Then I made the decision to do that. So far right now, I don't know what it's like there. I remember talking to this guy on one of these. He's from the UK, and he said 1 out of 4 is on antidepressants. And I'm like, holy crap. What's funny is I'm learning all these things, that the majority of the benefits of antidepressants is attributed to like the placebo effect. Like, it's because you think it's making you feel better is what actually makes you feel better. Like,
Yeah.
so my thing, and I've told you this before, what I don't like the society is doing is that they're making the result kind of the cause,
Mm-hmm.
rather than instead of remedying the cause, they're trying to remedy the result. When you remedy the result and the cause is still happening, well, this is always going to be the same result that you have to now remedy all the time. So I always kind of talk about like diabetes. I'm not saying don't take insulin, guys. What I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying is you might want to stop eating sugar though. Like, if actually you're a fitness trainer, let's make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Obesity, right?
This is kind of a touchy subject for some people, man, so be careful.
Right. Yeah. Here's the thing that I know. Everyone knows how to prevent it, right? Diet, exercise. There's really no other, it's diet or exercise. With mental health, it's a little harder because you don't see the physical proof of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know when you're suicidal. Just like obesity, it's a slow process. You don't go 500 pounds in one day, dude. You saw the whole time you were getting bigger.
Mm-hmm. You felt it too.
Yeah. And so the harder part is mental health. It's like all of a sudden you're a drug addict because you didn't see yourself going down this route. You didn't see it coming. You didn't prepare for it or whatever. But everyone knows with obesity, it's diet and exercise. The thing is, exercises, if you went on with Kane and he gives you all these exercises, but you didn't change your diet, like,
wouldn't work. So right. The alarming stat is that 96% of your results come from food. So
wow, 90 now.
96.
96. So
wow. That's from like a percentage of how much you should train a week. Like, people do overtrain in an attempt to get results. You don't need to train every single day. Like, I don't train every single day. It's mainly food and lifestyle. Right. Like, if you can change that.
Exactly. So for people that are listening, I hope you can relate to this. So it's not just about the exercises. If you don't handle your diet, in fact, 96% is diet. So if you change nothing, but you do all the exercises for example, in mental health, I understand that yoga is good, meditation is good. Like, I'm not saying it's not at all. Those are just exercises though. But your mental diet, if that still sucks and all it's doing is consuming negativity, you have to do yoga. You have to do so much even more. So especially if it's 96% of it is diet, it doesn't matter if you run a marathon every freaking day. Like, it doesn't even matter, because all you're doing now is you're trying to remedy the freaking result, right? So Go ahead. You want to say something?
I like how you said about like mental health diet,
Yeah.
because when I was going through my recovery, I started going to the gym.
Mhm.
Obviously, there was some sort of point where I transitioned to a PT,
Yeah.
but I started going to the gym and fell in love with it, and it became my sanctum, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And it was a place like where shit got real, and like things in my head started getting messed up.
Uh-huh.
Straight to the gym, destroy myself with iron, and walk out of there just being like, oh, I
Ah.
feel awesome. That is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did overtrain at that stage, but that was a what do you call it? A lesser evil.
Yeah.
Lesser evil. Overtrain or go take drugs.
Right. Right. It's
I'll
the
choose the overtraining. Yeah. And it like it got to the point where I was doing heaps of training, man,
yeah.
but it started becoming more of like an addiction than the drugs and that, because I was getting a better high from
Right.
destroying myself with weights.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
Mm-hmm.
another form, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really how I see, like, I don't know if you see the same thing, but that's how I see drugs. Uh, when you're doing them, you're not just doing them to just do it, because you're doing it for a reason, right? It's you're trying to remedy the pain, basically. It's not a physical pain. It's not even something conscious pain, but you're just like, yeah, I don't even want to think about this pain, because your perspective, you just, you have this one perspective, and you just hate yourself or whatever. So any kind of drugs, but exercise, the way you did it, was just another way of doing it to remedy
Mm-hmm.
that pain. But if the cause is still you not forgiving your mom, well, fuck, you're gonna kill yourself in the gym just like you did.
I nearly did kill myself in the gym. Yeah. Yeah, once I started, and you know what a good thing was for me to actually start working on forgiving her?
Yeah,
It was
gotta get back
fucking
to that.
talking about it, and like
Yeah,
posting on Facebook about shit that was going on, and talking
yeah,
about to other people about how I felt, and what had
wow,
happened in my past and that.
yeah.
So yeah, it
No,
was it was
it definitely makes sense. Like, and that's what people have to realize. It's like, actually, I want to go back to uh, someone, Brandy, kind of posted here. Let's see, Ricardo, you're spot on right now. I'm on antidepressants. And what you just said about the placebo and the actual medicine working just blows my mind. I just happened to come across this video, and I'm definitely thinking it was God sent. I've been struggling so bad with my purpose and depression and how I eat and live. So glad. Oh, that's awesome. So this
food.
is the shit. This is the reason we do this stuff. You
So
know?
food has a lot of impact on mental health as well. Like
Yeah.
if you're eating food that makes you feel tired, makes you feel run down, makes
Yeah.
your metabolic processes in the body run efficiently, then everything else in the body, is going to be magnified. And if you're already down, feeling
Right.
depressed, then
Right. And what's
yeah,
funny, just like what she's saying. So, you know how I mentioned before, uh, obesity, it's about diet and exercise. But what's funny is if you go even further, because everything that you do is just an extension of yourself, basically your mind. The reason you're not doing the diet and exercise is your mental health. Why are you eating so much? Why are you not exercising? And it really comes down to your mental health. And that's what you really need to fix before you even start doing the exercises and this and that. Like, but sometimes it does work around, because it's right. When
yeah,
you're depressed, you gain weight, and then you gain weight, so you're more depressed, and it just keeps on going until you go, all right, you know what? I'm gonna go work out, and then you feel better, and then because you feel better, you work out, and then
yeah.
and then it goes. But until that decision is made, this freaking thing just keeps on rolling and rolling. Like,
I,
everyone knows to exercise,
I think
you know?
I think it's a case by case study with people
Yeah,
trying to lose weight. Even we work with people that want to gain weight as well, and it's
yeah,
just the other side of the coin, man. That's all it is.
yeah,
They suffer with the same problems, same mental health issues, same addictions, same
yeah,
eating disorders, and it's a case by case study that, as a trainer, you've got to sort of find the real cause and the real root of the problem on what the
Right.
person's
That's
going
right.
through,
That's
and
right.
then work on that.
That's right.
Usually, training is the easiest part.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for some people, I have found that working on the nutrition first is the easy part for them. But yeah, most of the time, training's easy. If
Yeah.
you work with the trainer, go to the gym, do what they fucking tell you to do. If,
Yeah.
if you're
Well,
not,
and that's great that you mentioned that. So one of the things, that people need to understand is like, we actually don't do anything for you. Even as a trainer, you're not doing anything for them at all. You're just a guide. They actually have to help themselves. People with mental health issues, I don't say anything. I just hope I change your perspective. That's what helps. But everything else is really up to you, because everything you learn with our conversation today, it really doesn't matter unless you make a decision about something.
Yep.
For something to change, you have to change something.
Yeah.
Right? So
what's the definition of insanity? Is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
That's right. That's right. And I've learned that most people are fucking insane, because they complain about things they do absolutely nothing about. Oh man, I just don't have enough money. Oh, so you're getting a side job, killing it? No. Oh, man, my girlfriend, this same girlfriend. Did you have a talk? Anything? Nope. So I don't get it. I don't.
Yeah.
So, and it happens all the time. I've talked to so many people, and really, it's like, dude, you gotta be more accountable. Stop blaming this and no, my girlfriend's this or my job is this. Like, well, what are you doing about it? And what's funny is, this is how I learned about accountability. I think I told you this story. I was telling people it all starts with a decision, right? Talking about my brand and all that stuff. You got to say fuck it. And then, once you make that decision, I'm telling you. So anyway, they bought stuff, left. And then there's this guy just staring. And then finally approaches me. Oh, I did. So for people that don't know, Brandy else, this is a great story. So this dude comes up to me and he was just like, yeah, I like what you're telling people, that it starts with a decision, but it's not that easy. And I said, I never said it was easy. I'm just saying it starts with a decision. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm in rehab now, and this and that, and this excuse is all I heard. And I'm just like, yeah, that doesn't matter. It always starts with a decision. He's like, yeah, but I'm like, holy crap. Stop saying but. Tell me why you can't make a decision. Go. He finally stops. Yeah. And I'm like, stop. He didn't say it because I just told him to stop saying it. And then he just stood there for a minute. And I'm going, what is he doing? I didn't say, hey, you have to run a marathon. I didn't say, hey, you have to join Kane Patterson and do his exercise. All I said was like, you have to make a decision, man. That's instant. Why couldn't he freaking do it? And it took him so long that he finally goes, you're right. You're right. And I'm like, I know, you're welcome. Like, you're in rehab and you still haven't decided to get better. And that happens a lot, right, Kane?
From what I've seen and read, rehab only works if you want it to work.
Yep.
Like,
exactly.
There may be, like, don't quote me on that. There may be certain cases where it works for people that at the start they may not have been ready for it to work, but then through their journey they've found that reason. But like, it's like everything in life, man. If you're not ready for it to work, or you're not ready, dare I say this, to put in the work for it, then it's not going to work.
Yeah, no, it completely makes sense. And that's why, with anything that you do, people really have to have a different mindset on mental health, because depression is a result, not the cause of your depressive thoughts. It's reverse. You have depressive thoughts. That's why you have depression. The drugs that you're taking, the medication you're taking, it's reversing the chemical imbalance, but the chemical imbalance is a result, not the cause. So for people that don't know, the chemical imbalance is mostly the cortisol that happens, right? It really fucks you up, even physically. You actually get like diseases and stuff just because of stress, right? Everyone knows that. You get issues and stuff. So it's really based on your stress response. Keyword, response. It's responding to something. So the stress response is kind of, everyone knows the fight or flight, right?
Yep.
So the amygdala, I believe, is what kind of controls that. And what it does is, for people that don't know, the amygdala is meant to keep you alive, basically. It's either you're going to fight something or flight. Back in the day, we developed it because of like lions and stuff like that, right? Well, I'm pretty sure there's not that many lions you come across lately, right? But the amygdala is still there. The problem is your brain doesn't know a lion and, oh my God, pandemic, how am I going to pay my bills? The problem is with a lion back then, once you're away from the lion, the stress response stops and your chemical imbalance balances out again because you're safe. But today, as humans, we don't do that. Oh my God, I can't pay my bills. And then boom, stress response. How am I going to pay my bills? Oh my God. And then my car, boom, stress response, stress response, stress response, boom, 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 boom. So you're physically actually killing yourself. Those are the results. The chemical imbalance are the results. So you really have to determine like what is causing that. So the stress response is just responding to your perspective, your thoughts, what you're thinking about, because you're safe right now, right? Oh my God, how am I going to pay my bills? Well, you have a house right now. So why are you bugging out? There's no lion, nothing. But it's just the thought of it. And like I mentioned before, fear, anxiety, all this stuff are all based on future, not past. It's what you think your future is going to be. You're going to get eaten by a lion. You're going to be homeless if you don't pay your bills. That's what really messes you up. You wanted to say something?
I fell into that trap pretty much like when we spoke before this a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I was in that hole, man. Because of the pandemic and the situation here in Australia, we lost quite a lot of business. And my instant response was fall in a hole, get depressed. And fortunately for me, my go-to when I get depressed or stressed or whatever it is I go lift weights, I eat healthy food, and I play video games. That's my response.
Well, what's funny is, so I know Brandy's in, she said my stress response is horrible. So what's funny is, so this book, Mind Over Medicine, is really good. So there's this doctor that really studied the placebo effect. What's hurting a lot of people is the nocebo effect. So that's kind of like your diet, exercise kind of thing. It's going against each other. So when you have a stress response, so our bodies are actually very efficient. It kind of fixes itself, right? But the only way to fix itself is when you're in relaxation response. That's the only time. Once the stress response is done, you have to go into relaxation response. To you, that's video games. To you, that was weightlifting. That's how you get into your relaxation response. And when you have relaxation response, that's when you even fix physical ailments and stuff like that. Loneliness sucks balls. So one of the ways is, interacting with people, there's this thing. And so for people that don't believe or believe that it's because of chemical imbalance, then why do we have therapists? Like, what's the use of a fucking therapist then? If it's all about your chemical imbalance, and once you fix that, you should be good, then why do you need to talk about it? Why does therapy work? Why does having friends around you? Why does love work? Then why does all that work if it's just medicine and because of your chemical imbalance? Shouldn't you just take a pill and then you should be good? Why aren't you good?
Yeah.
Because those are just the results, man. That's not the cause. It's your perspective that needs fixing. Why is your perspective like that? How do we change it? Like, there's so many things. Like, look what you did for the pandemic, right? You could have
Mhm.
said, and that's it. I'm over. I can never do anything ever again. This and that and this. And what's funny, I actually recommend to people to complain and then write down their complaints, because that's what they need to work on. How am I going to do this with the pandemic? How am I going to, I don't know. How are you going to,
Yeah.
how are you going to do it?
work it out.
Yeah. The question is, now what? Now what? Because now what means, okay, we've gone through all the issues you're talking about. So now what? You go
Mhm.
into a solution mindset. And so that's why you got to really, and then you just make a decision. So once you come up with that, now what becomes that decision part? You know how now? Now you just got to make a decision. And like I said before, like nothing happens without that, you know? So it's
Mhm.
really cool, all the things that you've gone through. And like you really implemented a lot of the things that I kind of mentioned. And even to the point of your training, you said like, yeah, I don't really, you ask a lot of questions because people fix themselves. Unless you
Mhm.
know, well, what are you eating? Well, what do you do every day? When do you do this? Or if you don't know what, it's going to be so hard to help them help themselves,
Yes.
right? Because your
Um,
goal is not for them to depend on you,
no,
right?
definitely. We guide. We give people knowledge and power, and then it's
Mhm.
up to them to go away and do what they need to do with that. And
Exactly.
whenever a client comes to me and they're like, "Hey, I've got this result. Thank you so much," and they say thank you to me, I'm like,
Yeah.
don't thank me. Thank
Thank
yourself.
yourself.
Like
Oh,
like
you're
you
awesome.
did most of the fucking work. Like I just gave you the tools to do it, and you've been
Right.
doing the work.
Right.
I want to come back to something
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You said before about it's just gone out of my head. I'll tell you the story anyway, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
you'll remember what you told me. But it sparked this.
Okay.
When I met my dad when I was just about to turn 17,
Yeah.
he said something to me that I still use to this day,
Yeah.
and that was he's like, listen, I haven't been there for all your life. I can't tell you what to do. I know that you're taking drugs. I know you're doing all this. I know you're dealing. I know I can't tell you to stop all that,
Mhm.
but I just want to give you some advice. Whatever in life is holding you back, get rid of it, change it,
Yeah.
and move on. And
Yeah.
when I started working on myself and started getting clean, I used that advice.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my mum was the biggest problem in my life, so I got rid
Yeah.
of her.
Yep.
And to
Yep.
this day, I still use that advice. Like when shit blows up and my head gets all scattered, I'm like, all right, what what triggered this response? What triggered me to get into this situation that I'm in?
Yeah.
And then I find what was the cause, and I'm like, okay, how can I change that, do that better, or remove that from my life so it doesn't happen again?
That's
And
perfect.
yeah,
No, that's freaking great. And that's definitely, that's how you solve the problems, right? I like that you took the time and went, all right, what is causing it? And for people that still don't understand like how perspective helps, I gotta tell this one story. So I don't know if I told you my snowboarding story. I
I don't
think
think so.
so. Anyway, I was snowboarding Vermont, J Peak, right? I'm in the glades. The trees are about 10 feet apart. So they're pretty close together, you know? So I go in there with my friends and stuff. So I go 1, 2, 3, passing these trees. And all of a sudden, three, tree. And I'm like, fuck.
Oh,
Almost, and I fall back. Then I
I've
got
run
to
into a
climb out of
tree,
it.
man. I know.
Yeah, now I got to get up off the snow and it's deep in there. So you're like going in. So I'm sweating getting up. I'm like, all right, I'm up again. I'm like, all right, let me try this again. All right. 1, 2, 3, tree. Fuck. Like, God, I can't do this. So I probably did it one more time. And then my friend finally like stops, sprays me a little bit, like, and I'm just like, and he goes, yo, you all right? I go, yeah, I'm fine. But how the fuck do you do this? Like, how do you do that? And all I'm thinking is like, this guy was been snowboarding for like 15 years in the Oregon trails, like, I mean, he's been snowboarding, like he's good. He can snowboard both ways, all that stuff. And this is his advice. Dude, stop looking at the trees. Look at the path between the trees. And then he leaves. And I'm like, yeah, right. Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, right. It wasn't the 15 years of experience or anything. So I get up. I'm like, about to do it again. What have I got to lose? Don't look at the fucking trees. Don't look at the trees. Look at the path between the trees. Okay. I go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm like, what the? What was that? What was that? The trees didn't freaking move. The weather didn't change. I definitely didn't get that much better in 0.5 seconds. The only thing I changed was my perspective, and that was it. And what I've realized is it's the same thing when it comes to the things that's happening in your life. Kind of it reminded me because of what you were saying. What is preventing me and this and that? So
Mhm.
what it was is like you were still looking at all the trees and like blocking all the trees and this tree and this tree and this tree. You didn't have like the perspective is what makes you go, oh, it's the path. Like where am I trying to go?
Mhm.
And the trees automatically disappear. The mom disappears because you're trying to get here, and it's not going to be. You can't accomplish it with your mom being there. So it's not because you're like, I'm going to get away from her, like avoiding the tree. It's just that you just do because you'll never achieve what you want unless you without even effort. And that's where drugs become obsolete. Not because like, oh, I better avoid those drugs, but you're just kind of like, nah, because I want to wake up tomorrow, dude. I got shit to do. Like
Yeah.
the drugs is in the way of that. Like,
It's
and so that's even so much better than trying to go. Like when people count the days, I think you're. I remember telling you, you telling me, you're like, oh, I don't even know. I don't know when I stopped. I know kind of around, but
yeah.
you,
Time for me, like when things happened, I know roughly, but I don't know exact dates. Like
yeah.
it's
But when
it's
people do that, I mean, it's been 367 days since my last cocaine. All they're thinking about is the damn cocaine.
yeah.
Like, you know?
So that brings up an interesting point, man.
Yeah.
I still dream about drugs. I still think about them. They uh, I say to people, I'll never not be an addict.
Yeah.
I'm just an addict that's in control now. Like
Okay.
I still
Yeah.
have vivid dreams about drugs and taking them
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Some mornings I wake up and I call them my bad days where
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, man, I could really go and like I'm
Yeah.
over. Am I over 10 years now? I'm around 10 years
Yeah.
clean.
Yeah.
So,
But
but
yeah,
yeah,
but it's the same thing as people like you're training. They're
yeah,
going, that cupcake. Ooh, ooh, man, I
yeah,
would love that burger, like
yeah.
so that's not allowed. It's always your actions, right?
Mhm,
It's
yeah,
always like, well, what do you want? And it overpowers that. Subconscious sucks balls, like it's powerful, right? But that conscious effort is what helps.
mhm,
And that's what makes it really hard. The subconscious, man, is a pain. That's the stuff that you grew up with, the habits, all that stuff. And it's a really hard thing to change.
yeah,
But it's the way you deal with it is what's helping you, Like I think everything you've done with your life is really in line and it makes sense. And I don't know if we got to say it on here. We were talking beforehand that Kane never took any kind of medicine
no,
to be where he's at today. Never. So
no,
to all the people that are going, oh, I'm depressed because I'm thinking about my divorce. Yeah, no shit. You just got a divorce. Like, of course you're gonna be depressed because your blueprint, the blueprint of your life just totally shifted. Your future version totally shifted. You thought
yeah,
you were gonna have a white picket fence with a dog with this dude, and now you're broken up. And now you can't shift your perspective to going like, well, I guess I'm gonna have someone else that's gonna make me happy. Like, but you won't. You keep going back to this. And so what trauma does, it fixates you. So we're always constantly evolving. The Kane today was not Kane 10 years ago. And I'm pretty sure the Kane 10 years from now is going to be completely different. At least you should be.
I will be.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what trauma does, it actually accelerates the evolution, the change. You just happen to get a positive trauma, which is cool. But it fast forwards how much you change. So the people that get really hurt are the ones that are trying to stop the change, the evolution, because they want to be who they were before the trauma, or or some way, shape, or form, instead of accepting it. Right? When people come up to me and they say I have depression, I'm just like, good. That's what I tell them. I say, good, because you're almost there.
How does that go down with some people?
I mean, well, one, it bitch slaps them. They're like, wait,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Because then it becomes like, oh, but what I try to do with that is because I'm trying to change their perspective on depression. So when I say good, they're like, what do you mean fucking good? Dude, it's the 5 stages of grief. You're grieving over something, some kind of loss. I don't know what it is. Some kind of loss, whether it's a loss of your personal self, you actually lost someone from a divorce. DABDA, it's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. That is the 5 stages of grief. Acceptance is the only positive outcome out of all of that. Depression is typically the last freaking stage. It's the hardest. The thing is, depression is a natural response to what you just went through, what your mindset is, all that stuff. People get divorced all the time. People pass away all the time, but they all don't go into freaking, become drug addicts and become depressed. And how's that possible then? It's because they shift, they go to acceptance. So the same reason the finish line is not the easiest in a fucking marathon. The final exams when you go to college, it's not the easiest. It's always at the very end. That's always the hardest. Always, man. Like, it's always the fucking hardest. And so depression, when you're almost there, you have to go through it. Don't take the fucking drugs to alleviate the pain. You have to go through it. And once you accept it, oh, dude, different ball game. Did you notice yourself go through those stages, Kane? Like, kind of like the acceptance of, like, you know what? This is my life. I gotta, you didn't really go through it.
I didn't really notice myself going through the stages.
Yeah.
I suppose I would have.
Yeah.
There was obviously the depression and then the acceptance came after that. Before that, I think there was a lot of trauma in my life.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So probably the hardest thing through my life was my grandfather passing away, and that took me.
When was that?
So that was around the age of, I think I was 12.
Okay.
12, 15. Man, I'm bad with my times.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just
all good.
Yeah. It hit me really hard. No, sorry. I was 15, yes.
15, okay.
Yeah.
And then when you lost, what happened? Like, you just kind of, that's when it really got you to your bottom or whatever?
Yeah, really hit me hard. And
how did you end up being so close to him?
So through my childhood, my only really solid, let's call them parent figures, were my nan and pop. And they were always there. They were always, every weekend they would come and pick us up from the foster home we were at, and we would go spend the weekend with them.
That's good.
He taught me how to play golf. And then, we just had a really strong relationship. And I
can understand why now. Okay.
Yeah, I still have a strong relationship with my nan when I go see her.
Yeah.
I call her. Do you guys have Mother's Day in America?
Yeah.
Yeah. I call her up on Mother's Day and say Happy Mother's Day to her, and I think she likes it. I don't.
Yeah. No, of course.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Now that you bring that up, I'm like, we're already over the hour. I told you we were gonna go over the hour. I told you. What's funny is I see Father's Day. We have Father's Day here. We have Mother's Day here. And what's funny is, you know what the most important one is? Is like Children's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what's really important. The reason so many problems are happening is because no one, it's almost like taking for granted that their kids are just supposed to do what they have to do instead of appreciating them. And when they grow up, it just gets lost. It's always respect this, respect that. But it's like, I get it. You know, to have Mother's Day to appreciate it also. But I think it's even more important to do a Children's Day to really look at your kids, because they're in that phase where that's when they need it the most, not afterwards.
Shouldn't that
Right?
be every day?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, it's more important. You know what I mean? It should be every day. Same thing with Mother's Day, though. Same thing with Father's Day.
Yeah.
That should be every day. And that's why, you know, our teal, you know, teal is our theme color, because it gives people the reminder of what you need to give to help prevent mental health issues, suicide prevention. It's time, effort, attention, and love. So by giving all that, instead of waiting for the symptoms, oh, Kane looks depressed. Maybe I'll ask him to go out now. Like, no, dude, way before that. It's the same thing as diabetes. You don't eat, you don't tell them to eat vegetables when you see the symptoms. You tell them like, hey, stop eating so much sugar. Like, here, eat some vegetables.
Yeah.
Right? That's actually how you maintain your physical, right? It's like, you don't maintain like, you don't go to Kane when you're 500 pounds. Because just like mental health, and I think we talked about this the last time we talked, same thing with physical health. The prevention is to always be exercising. There's not a time in the future where it's time to exercise and have a good diet. The best time is like right now, right now.
Isn't the saying prevention is easier than cure?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Actually, yeah, because that is the cure. You don't even need a cure, And it's the same thing with mental health. The problem with mental health is you can't see it, right? So, but it has to do the same thing. You have to do this preventative things so that you never get there. But just like exercise and diet, it's something you do now. Well, for your mental health, it's something you do now also. Like, you have to do things that are good for your mind. Like Kane said, diet actually helps. Like, it actually helps. Sleep actually helps. So those are kind of things. But remember, you have to look for the root cause. Why aren't you sleeping at night? Why are you eating bad diet? Is it because every time you're thinking about this thought and this? Well, that's what you need to freaking change, So always look for the cause, not the result. All these emotional stuff, they're just all results. And that's what I'm trying to change with, the way people kind of see mental health, like depression, anxiety. Like, I mean, man, everyone's just taking pills for things just to remedy the result. It's like, dude, that's insanity.
I think that's the easy option though, is to because as humans, man, we're fucking lazy. We don't want to work hard.
Yeah.
Like, we just want, hey, we want
something
pill. Instant, man. That's why these like meal replacement shake companies and diet pill companies make fucking billions, man.
Yeah.
They're like, here, take this and it'll solve your problems.
Yeah. What's funny is I see the same thing happening in the mental health arena. They're making so much money that it's recommended. That's why they love saying depression is the cause, not the result. Because how do you fix depression? It's an invisible enemy. But I bet it would be a different story. Like, I hate when people say like, oh, I've been dealing with depression for 10 years. What does that mean? Do you think you're never going to have a depression ever again or something? Like, it's a result. It's an emotional response. I don't know what's happening that's causing that depression to come out, but it's an emotional response. It's not the cause. And when you say depression, it's like it's an invisible enemy. Of course, you're never going to defeat it, because you just say like, oh, my depression. What the fuck does that mean? Can you be my therapist?
It's actually interesting, because when we spoke a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
you got me thinking quite a lot about my, like, because I say that I'm like, hey, when my depression kicks me in the
Yeah.
ass,
Yeah.
but then
You were taught.
I'm like, well, hang on, is it actually, like, obviously I get fucking depressed then, I get really down, I cry sometimes,
Yep. Yep.
but like the recent one, we lost, I think it was like 85% of our income.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got really down. I started getting thoughts about, fuck, I'm not going to be a provider. I'm not going to be able to be a father.
That's
I'm not
right.
going to be able to give my girlfriend the life that I want to give her.
Right.
That all fucking come up.
Right. Right.
And I'm like, well, am I actually depressed or am I just fucking down because of all that shit?
Yeah. Because
I'm
it
like,
hasn't even happened yet. It's just what you think. You're welcome, dude.
yeah, yeah.
No, but right? Isn't that more powerful? Because now you almost react subconsciously, having a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you think it's my depression's coming at me again, like fuck, it's such a different story when you have. It's like a like this monster that you can't even touch. But if you said like, oh man, if you told me, it's like, I'm getting depressed again because all I keep thinking about is how I'm not going to provide for her and this and that. That's the cause. That's the cause. So we have to figure out like, okay, so you're getting really anxious and depressed because you think you're not going to be able to provide again, right? It's future stuff. And you're seeing a completely different future, even though it's not happening now. You're still good. You still have your home, but your mindset is like, yeah, but this is what I see. It's like, dude, you got to shift that. What do we need to do to shift that perspective? Right. And then when you sit down and you really think about it, and if everyone just did it that way and what you did and go like, all right, wait a minute. It's not depression. What's causing this depression? Because this is a response. It's responding to my thoughts. All right, what am I thinking about right now? You know, it's normal. I don't know when depression became abnormal. I have no idea. It became abnormal. You're not supposed to feel it anymore. People are trying to get rid of the emotion. And then, oh, I got depression again. Like, did you think that emotion was going to disappear or something? I don't understand. Why are you trying to make it disappear? It actually helps you cope. You go through that depression and you go, whew, all right, let's make moves.
Time for action.
If you decided to postpone that when you were having the depressive moments or whatever, and you decided like to not face it head on, oh, dude, you would have been in trouble, man.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's where the drug habits start coming back when you feel that, and because it's an invisible freaking enemy you just gave yourself. Oh, it's depression. Oh,
it's interesting you say that because I went through, as I said before, a 3.5 year cycle, man, of trying to quit,
yeah,
fucking up, getting depressed, and then hitting the drugs even harder. Like I kept going. Yeah. Like it was like my own little punishment for myself. It was like, you fucked up, you're in a bad mood.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah. And for some people, it's just different. Some are food.
Yeah.
Right. And then they get really big because when they're depressed, ice cream. You see it in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, girls break up, ice cream. Every time. Every time. Right. And the thing is, and so, you know, I'm hoping people are learning. And I'm really proud of you, first of all. And I hope,
man.
Yeah, dude, because the things that you're doing are all the fucking right things. You didn't fall for the trap of, oh, it's because my mom was a drug addict, so I became a drug addict. It's like, I mean, you're more susceptible to it, you know?
For a while, I did fall for it.
Yeah, exactly. But you didn't fall for I need medicine or else I'm never going to get better. Because that's where most people's heads are at now with depression. I mean, all you hear about, right? Anxiety, depression. Every time. Every time. Like I said, you're not supposed to have those. There are kids that complain about having anxiety and they shouldn't have to like talk in front of the class because it gets them anxious. I shouldn't be forced to do that. And I'm like, shut the Shut up. What do you mean? So I was talking to this one guy. He has anxiety, right? And I told him about all my philosophies and stuff. And he's just like, I take pills for my anxiety. Like, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, let's talk about this. Let's bring it on. What makes you anxious? It's like give me an example. Like give me an example. What makes you anxious? I don't know. And like when I'm driving in a car, I'm like, all right, a lot of people driving a car, man. What makes you anxious? Well, when I'm driving in a car, I feel like I'm gonna, get in an accident and maybe kill myself. Now we're getting somewhere. Let me get this straight. Your perspective is that every time you're in the car, you're gonna get into an accident and possibly kill yourself. That perspective will make anyone anxious.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you have anxiety. I said, you don't have anxiety, and now you think you're going to get in an accident and kill you, basically die. It's the other way around. And so he was just like, I'm trying to make up an excuse, but you're right. It's like, again, I know, you're welcome. Like, but that's what happens every time. And the way you handled it, man. Whoo, dude, good
Thank
stuff,
you.
bro. Like, no, good stuff.
It's interesting because my girlfriend suffered from social anxiety.
Yeah.
And we like before she started working on how she sees herself and her body and how confident she is.
Yeah.
It was any social like event that we would go to, she would get clammy hands, she'd start sweating, she'd start crying, and like it was just something that she couldn't do.
Yeah.
And we started prying a bit deeper, and it was actually how she viewed herself. She was scared that people were going to judge her. She was scared that people were going to, because she was a skinny girl.
Yeah.
She was scared that people were going to be like, oh, this twig or anything like that was how other people perceived her.
Exactly.
And I'm like, well, if you get to a point where you transform your body and you're looking fucking sexy as hell, and you see yourself as a sexier person, then it's not going to matter what anyone else fucking thinks,
That's right. That's right.
And now she fucking just walks into a room and owns it. Like,
yeah, good for you, girl. And see, it's intentional. Those kinds of things are intentional. And that's why I always recommend, like this is, I don't know if Brandy's still on, you have to develop your purpose. You have to figure that out. There's different purposes for different parts of your lives, whether it's for purpose for your business, as a parent, or whatever. So there's a couple of things about purpose, though. So this will help you. Purpose is always a verb, just like the cause. I think that's maybe why they call it a cause, right? When you nonprofits, all that stuff, you have to have a verb in there. It's an action word, something that's going. Oh, cool. So she is still here. So I'm glad we're able to talk to her. So that's one thing. Another thing is, so first it's a verb. It's not a noun. You can't say my purpose is to be a fitness trainer. That's not a purpose. Your purpose has to be to educate people to be able to take care of their physical health. That's a purpose, right? That's Kane's purpose. It's like, it's to keep going. It doesn't matter if there's a fucking pandemic. It doesn't matter what happens. The purpose remains. That's what's cool about purpose. It doesn't care about pain or pleasure. It goes like, well, pandemic sucks balls. I don't have any clients, but you know what? I can do Zoom. Yep. So his purpose remains. Another thing
on Facebook and
oh yeah, nice.
And educate people. Like,
you keep on going because that's your purpose, right? Nothing will stop that. Doesn't matter what the fuck's going on anywhere else. Those are the obstacles that's life, basically. It always happens. And that's why personal purpose is very important. Another thing is that a purpose is meant to serve other people. It's always for other people. No one ever has a purpose. My purpose is to be a multimillionaire. That doesn't serve anyone at all. It has to be for the benefit of other people. A purpose is always a verb that helps other people all the time. So that's what a purpose is. So when you have that, what purpose does is it gives you this infinite mindset, because a purpose doesn't end. It doesn't all of a sudden like, well, I can't seem to educate anyone anymore about their fitness. Like, no, that's never ending. How do you educate them? Is it going to be through podcasting? Is it going to be in person freaking seminars? So it keeps on going when you have this purpose. Once you have that purpose, it's easier to gauge with your perspective. Like I mentioned before, what's your perspective at the pandemic about, like, for example, we're going to use Kane. What was his perspective on the pandemic? At first, he was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna be dead. which is what would happen. Trauma shifts your perspective. It went from I'm killing it and helping so many people to like, oh my God, I'm never gonna do this ever again. I can't provide. Who am I? Like, so your perspective, when your perspective is that, guess what? You go into depression. That's where you start crying, because your perspective is, I can't even provide for my girlfriend. It's not even your fault. Like, it's not even your fault. Your fault is how you respond. That's going to be your fault. Yeah. So once you do that, sometimes you need the inspiration to change your perspective. This is what this is for.
Yeah, definitely.
Difference. And then after that, your decisions. Once you figure out the decisions, all the problems, the solutions will come up when you make the decision. Trust me. Yeah. So you know what I've seen? So I've butted heads with this one life coach, right? She just couldn't understand. She couldn't understand what I meant about remedying. Oh, was that?
I've had similar situations.
Oh, okay.
Like, drug addiction, people, and yeah.
That's so fun. And right, everything I'm saying is just common sense stuff. You were there, and you're going like, no, that's where I was at, dude. Like, and so when I was telling this girl that, to remedy the result, or to remedy the cause, not the result, that it's not chemical imbalance and this and that, and I'm like, it takes that decision or whatever. I'm always butting heads, and I'm like, man, why can't they understand that the chemical imbalance is just the result of things, and that it's like they want to keep it as an excuse. And that's how I actually came up with the whole accountability thing. When I told this story about that one guy approaching me about, it's all starts with a decision, another lady I mentioned to, and she was like, yeah, but it's different for everyone. I'm like, oh my God, another one, Jesus. And then I'm like, no, it always starts with a decision. And then she's like, I don't know about that. So obviously she was going through something, I could tell. She left angrily. And I'm going, why would someone be so angry? And all I said was, you just have to make a decision. Like, that's where it starts. Not it's the cure, but that's where the cure starts, or else nothing will happen. So I analyzed it, why that would happen. And basically, as soon as she agreed with me, was as soon as she cannot use excuses anymore. And she did not like the idea that she can't blame depression. She can't blame anxiety. Just like the doctor said, she can't blame it was my mom. I can't blame my mom being a heroin addict. That's why I'm fucked up. Like, no, I'm not having that. Nope. To be accountable, it took that much. And that's when I started learning that. And I'm just like, oh. So what I started learning, like when people kind of argue with me, and I wanted to know, like, what the hell else do I have to say to like make you understand, right? So now I'm thinking of cancer, because they assume when you have depression, you're fucked. That's it. Sorry, you have depression. You got to take a lot of pills. Here you go, man. I got one for you. What I've started learning is that they treat it like it's cancer. And they treat it like, oh, Kane, you have cancer? You're going to die. Does everyone die when they have cancer?
Nope.
No. Right.
I know a few people that have gone through it.
Right. And a lot of it's actually diet and stuff too. Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, what I learned is like, okay, let's look at the ones that didn't get or defeated cancer. Kind of like, we should be looking at the ones that got out of depression, like Kane, like you. So anyway, what was their mindset? People that freaking decided to beat cancer. What do they always? What's the first thing that happens? The ones that didn't lose. Well, what do you think? What's the first thing that they did?
When they found out,
No, like how the fuck did they beat it?
I would say it would be a positive mindset, man, and like a proactive approach. Like okay, I need to be healthy as I can. So
Yeah,
if I'm taking chemotherapy or doing whatever, it has its best chance of working.
that's right.
That's what I
All
would
the
do.
right things you just said. But the very, very initial thing is the first thing in their head, I'm gonna beat this.
Yeah.
And then those are just secondary. Those are just what I said before. Once you make a decision, everything happens automatically. They end up having a better diet because they said, "I'm going to beat this. I made a decision. No. I'm gonna make it happen. I don't care. Whatever the doctor says. He says 3 months. I don't care. So I'm going to make it happen." Right? That's the first thing. The fucking common denominator of all the ones that defeated cancer is that.
Mm-hmm.
That they thought, well, we're going to beat it. No one has ever defeated cancer. Like, holy shit! I thought I only had 2 weeks. Like, not one ever. No one has ever said that. But how come when it comes to depression, why the hell do we treat it like, oh, you have cancer, you're gonna die in 3 months? All right, I'll see you later, doc. And then that's it. They don't go, well, how do I freaking get depression? How do I defeat this? How do I change this? So it's like, it's that decision. Once you make that, all of a sudden, oh, now you start listening. Dude, you got to change your perspective. All right, cool. So to beat depression, I got to change my perspective. Got it. So to be this, I have to do this. Kind of like what you were saying before, Kane. You were like, there was a limit to what I could do with that. And then you said to yourself, like, all right, what the fuck else do I need to do to make more progress? And that's when you start doing the fitness and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it takes. That's what it takes, you know. But you're such a great example of all this. Like, and it's awesome. Like, awesome.
Thank you,
Awesome. You know, like you're my go-to now of someone, and I'm glad that you didn't even go through medicinal stuff, or because they always say like, yeah, everyone's different though, you know, because Kane didn't have chemical imbalance. That's why.
So I never went through rehab, but I always wonder to myself
What if
if
you did?
if I did, would I have got cleaner quicker? Like,
Yeah.
I always wonder that, and I talk to people in like, there's a bit of repeat, man.
Yeah.
Can you hear that?
No,
No,
not on my side.
Okay. So I talk to people on Facebook groups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I try and explain to them what I've done and how I've done it and everything like that. And I talk to them, and they start getting engaging, and they're like, oh my God. And then you get these college like people that have done courses and stuff like that. And they've never really lived the experience. And they start talking to people, no, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, what Kane's saying won't work. And I'm like, I'm fucking living experience. Like,
oh yeah, you mentioned this.
yeah, and I try and talk to these people. I'm like, man, and I say to them, find something that you love doing that makes you fucking happy.
Yeah.
And go do it when you feel like, you know, you're depressed or you're down or you feel like you want to take drugs.
Right.
Go do this thing.
Right.
And fucking, but then as you said, I do say to them, but you've got to want to change. You've got to make that decision to change.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's funny, right? And that's literally what it takes. When people tell me like, hey, you know, I've always wanted to start my own business, to do this, do that. You know, do you have any advice? I'm just like, start.
Yeah.
Like,
start doing it.
Like, what the hell? Do you think I knew everything about business? Do you think Elon Musk knew anything about business? Like, do you think anyone that started their business knew about business? Unless their dad was in business, things like that. It's a little different. But most of the time, like, no one knows what the hell they're doing. Look at you as a fitness instructor. You didn't learn everything about being a fitness instructor and then start doing it.
No,
you just went, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I think I was still using drugs when I made the decision. I'm like, okay, I love lifting weights.
Yeah.
I love eating healthy, what I thought was healthy food back then.
Yeah.
I love it that much. I'm going to be a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And even though I was working as a plasterer then and other jobs,
Yeah.
I still made that decision, like I'm going to be a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And then I went and did my course, and actually did my PT course with that friend that told me that he didn't want to see me anymore. Me and him did the course together.
No way.
So
Oh, that's awesome. That's
that was really
awesome.
cool.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's awesome. Does he know he's the one that helped you out?
Oh yeah. So I actually tell him about that night where he told me he didn't want to hang around me anymore, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Fuck, man, I don't remember it." And I'm like,
No
"What?"
way.
I'm like,
So you forgot everything else.
I'm
That's
like,
funny.
dude, it's such a fucking pivotal moment in my life, and you
Yeah.
can't fucking remember it.
You're hoping you're gonna be like, "You're welcome, thank you, man." Like, wait, what'd I say?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad he freaking said it. I'm glad he said it. And you see, it's that proactive thing, right? That helped you. Imagine if he waited for you to call out for help and then tell you. Like that still boggles me, where people are still looking for symptoms and still looking for, and if he stays in the room a lot, he might have depression. I'm like, holy shit, take the kid out to the park with or without him staying in the room. Like, take him out of there. Like now, not tomorrow, not like, it doesn't make sense to me. So it kills me. But looks like we went way over. So but yo, Kane, thank you so much, man, for one, sharing your story and actually sharing a lot of your insights. And I think it would be very helpful for anyone that's gone through kind of what you're going through or gone through, and that at least they know, like, you talking about like it still happens. It's like, dude, yeah, that's natural. It's like natural. You expect someone not to, daydream about food when you're training them. It's like, that's natural. Like, what do you mean? It's always a habit. The hell?
It's always going to be there.
Yeah, it's always going to be there. It's when you keep going, like, oh my God, it's still there. Like, dude, like, whoa, calm down with the medicine there, So, but yeah, thank you so much for taking the time and trying to help people with us. And I hope this changes people's perspective on drug addiction and how they can get better, instead of relying on things, that you chose to take accountability and basically handled it yourself. I mean, you didn't go through rehab, you didn't go take medicine anywhere. And I think it's awesome. So, but yeah, thank you, man. Let me just show if you guys, anyone that's watching, want to learn a little bit more about, what he's doing, you can reach out to him on Facebook at the Skinny to Strong podcast, and he'll get in touch with you. So he's pretty good at communication. So I guess that's it, man.
Just want to say thank you, Ricardo, for having me on, and also for opening my eyes a little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah, because it definitely got me thinking. Every time we talk, I'm like, well, fuck. Wow.
I'm so happy to hear that, because that's the mission, right? It's because once I tweak it, everything will follow, man. Right? From now on, it's not something you have to remind yourself. It's not like an exercise. The perspective is weird. It keeps on going. It changes your entire life. It's like that my snowboarding thing. All of a sudden, you're like, "Holy shit!" Like, what? It's like, how am I doing this? How am I doing this? Because it just your perspective, and it's automatic pilot from here. But it's always going to shift. There's going to be something like a pandemic, that's going to go like, "Oh no, I'm not going to make it." So I'm glad. Thank you for telling me that. And I know you also do a podcast. So I don't know if you want to tell people a little bit about it.
So the podcast, we do talk about health and fitness in general, but the main focus of the podcast is helping skinny people gain healthy weight. It's the same as our Facebook page, the Skinny to Strong podcast, if people want to check it out.
That's awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again. And everyone, I hope you guys learned something from Kane and myself. And until next time, Thinking Out Loud Live. You.